The first sign was the cold. Not the chill of an unheated room, but a localized, heavy cold that always settled in the space between the foot of the bed and the mahogany dresser. Elora had moved into the sixth-floor apartment for the quiet, the view, and the sense of untouchable security. Yet, 2 months in, she felt less safe than she had in her noisy, street-level studio. It began subtly, a faint scent of old pipe tobacco that vanished when she breathed deeply, or the way the bathroom door, which she swore she had latched, was always slightly ajar in the morning. She initially blamed poor insulation, faulty memory, or drafts. But the paranoia sharpened when the cold started waking her. She would jolt awake, heart hammering, always at an hour when the city was truly silent, 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m. In the absolute darkness, the feeling was visceral, someone was present. One Thursday night, Elora experienced the first true sighting. She woke with the familiar, suffocating terror. She didn't move a muscle, breathing shallowly, her eyes squinting into the pitch-black room. As her sight adjusted, she realized the darkness wasn't uniform. Near the corner of the room, where the window's sheer curtain met the wall, a vertical mass of shadow stood taller and denser than the surrounding gloom. It was shaped like a man. He was silent, still, a silhouette carved from the night itself. She couldn't make out features, no eyes, no clothing detail, only the clear, undeniable form of a man standing perfectly motionless, facing her. He was simply watching. A panic scream caught in her throat. She slammed her eyes shut, counting to 10, rationalizing, sleep paralysis, a trick of the optic nerve, an anxiety attack made manifest. When she opened them again, the space was empty. The chill, however, lingered on her skin like a damp shroud. The visits became routine. Every few nights, she would wake and see him, always in that same spot, always silent, always utterly still. Sometimes he stood by the door, sometimes near the dresser. Once, she woke to find him just 2 feet from her face, looking down, his shadow obscuring the ceiling light above him. She never saw him move, he was simply there or gone. Elora checked the locks obsessively, taped the windows shut, and even placed a delicate porcelain figure on the outside windowsill, knowing if it fell, she would hear the smash. Nothing ever moved. The man was either a hallucination or something that defied every law of physics and security. Desperate, she bought a small, motion-activated camera, securing it high on the bookshelf, aimed directly at her bed. She couldn't bear to review the footage immediately. For 2 nights, she slept better than she had in weeks, knowing the electronic eye was on guard. The next morning, with shaking hands, she transferred the video files to her laptop. The first clip was blank, just hours of darkness and her peaceful, oblivious self. Then came the second clip, taken at 3:19 a.m. She watched her sleeping form, serene and defenseless. Then, the corner of the screen flickered. Slowly, silently, the figure materialized. He didn't walk in from the door, he simply resolved from the darkness near the wardrobe, like a photograph developing on the wall. He was tall, dressed in a heavy, dark coat despite the warmth of the room. He stood by the foot of the bed for nearly 15 minutes. He was not menacing, not aggressive. He was simply observing, his posture unnervingly patient. The dread tightened its grip on Elora. This wasn't a hallucination. This was real. As the clip reached the 15:45 mark, the man did something terrifying. He didn't move toward the bed or turn to leave. Instead, he slowly, deliberately, turned his head and looked directly into the camera lens. His face was indistinct, shrouded in shadow, but the expression was unmistakable. It wasn't malice, nor curiosity. It was profound loneliness. Then, he did the unthinkable. He raised a hand toward her sleeping face. Elora lunged for the laptop, stopping the video just before his fingers made contact. She needed to know what happened next, but the primal fear was too overwhelming. She deleted the file, threw the camera into a cabinet, and ran to the window, throwing it open to breathe in the loud, cold city air. She stayed awake all the next night, curled up on the sofa in the living room, listening to the silence of the hall. She was too frightened to sleep in her room, and too paralyzed to leave the apartment. The following morning, exhausted, she crept back into the bedroom to collect clothes. The porcelain figure was still outside on the sill, intact. The windows were still taped. But as she reached for her pajamas, she saw it. The sheet on her bed was rumpled, and lying neatly folded in the center of her pillow, was a single, vintage matchbook. The kind used in old, dimly lit theaters or smoke-filled jazz clubs. She picked it up. Inside, the matches were untouched. On the back, written in tiny, elegant script, were 3 words, which chilled her more deeply than the sight of the watcher himself: "I miss you." He wasn't a stalker trying to hurt her. He was a presence, tied to the apartment or perhaps to her own loneliness, patiently waiting for recognition. She realized the knocking she thought she heard in the walls, the cold spot, the smell of tobacco. It was all an attempt to be acknowledged. He wasn't watching her sleep to threaten her, he was watching her sleep because that was the only time she was quiet enough to be near. She wasn't his victim. She was his captive company. Elora moved out the next day, but sometimes, when she wakes up in her new, bright, sunlit room, she feels the strange, distant cold of an empty space. And she wonders if she truly left him, or if she simply moved to a new spot for him to stand.